Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Learning Podcast. And if you aren't sure, it's a Singaporean podcast dedicated to learning something new from every single guest on this show. And today, I have a very big guest. His name is Damian. Damian, thanks so much for taking the time.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me.
I'm very, to be honest, I'm always intimidated by every podcast because Damian himself has achieved so much. Currently, he's the founder and CEO of Gym Pod. So I'm not sure if you guys know, I had Peter, who was one of the first podcast guests as well, and we talked a lot about Gym Pod yesterday. But if you aren't sure, Gym Pod is Singapore's first 24 hours automated container smart gym. Basically, if you are scared of going to the gym itself because you're intimidated by all the muscular guys, right? You can actually book a pod, which is like a container, and just work out by yourself in 30 minutes or 1 hour sessions. I've tried it myself as well, and it's very nice and it's very efficient if you want to be, if you want to really save your time. The thing that intimidates me about Damian, right? I feel like he's really a master. There's a saying, a master of all trades. Jack of all trades, master of none. But he's involved in a lot of things when it comes to mobile app development. I see that he has a lot of hustles. He was also the COO and CFO of Voyager Innovation Singapore Private Limited, which was also known as Paywhere Private Limited, which was acquired as well. So I think this guy is doing a lot of stuff. He graduated from NTU, the Nanyang Technology University of Singapore, studying banking and finance. So I'm just very interested in terms of this thought process of how he was studying as you would say, a normal undergraduate like every one of us. But I think that one thing that inspires me to make this podcast in the first place, right, is to really meet people who are creative. And I think entrepreneurs themselves are the highest level of being creative in a sense. They are trying to make the change that they want in a sense and create a lifestyle, a product or service that they want. So I'm always inspired when I talk to creative people. And obviously, Damian is a super creative person. I met him a couple of years ago at NAS, at an event with NAS Daily. But it's been a while. So yes, TLDR, long story short, Damian, could you give a quick introduction before we start for listeners that don't know who you are? But I know I just sort of gave an introduction.
Yeah, thanks, JJ. I'm Damian, the founder of the Gym Pod. So pretty much like what you introduced, I started diving into startups for a couple of years after graduation. Okay, sorry, I just correct myself. I actually started the company kind of when I was studying with a friend of mine. So it's like a web development company, and I've been interested in technology and the business world since then. There's up and downs. I think we can go more into that later. And so basically what we are doing now is the Gym Pod, which is like we say unmanned container gym. So what we do, we actually created a system that allows gyms to run on their own. It's really meant for introverts, shy people like me. I'm probably the most skinny gym owner you will ever see. Yeah, so I'm definitely not from the fitness industry, but I wanted to solve a problem for myself. I wanted to go to the gym, I wanted to work out, just stay fit. But I realized it's very intimidating, to go to public gyms and I see all the muscular guys. They're probably not looking at me, but I feel like they're looking at me. Yeah, and you and then I worry about because you want to show off, right? You try to hold heavy weights and stuff and get injured. So I thought, why not have a private, kind of setting that I can do that. I started off trying to work out at home, right? And then, being Singaporean, live in houses that's not too big, right? And then, buying gym equipment can take up quite a lot of space and stuff. Yeah, so from there, I kind of start researching into what we can do about this problem. And so here we are today with the Gym Pod. Happy to share more. It depends what angle you want to go on. Yeah.
Got it. Yeah, if you have not tried Gym Pod, right, those little containers that you see all over Singapore, I think there are about 48 over 50 containers right now, right? So there's definitely one around your area if you live in Singapore. I'll leave all the links below for you to try. But if you go all the way back, right, as a university kid, right, I'm just inspired or curious to know how you got started on this journey. You said that you mentioned you started a hustle with a friend while you were working or studying in Maple Tree, is it? Or still studying? So back in NTU.
Yeah.
So how did that conversation go? Like, it's like, did you go to a friend and say, why not, let's try something? And what was the incentive or motivation to do that?
Okay, I think maybe just to rewind just a little bit further back. So I studied banking and finance in NTU, but actually I was enrolled into the engineering course before that. And I was going the typical route. After JC, I was like, I don't know what I should study. And then I see at the time, most of my friends, I think we'll go engineering. Yeah, okay, let's just apply for engineering, right? And then I think during the NS time, I kind of start wondering, what am I going to do in the future, and what am I really interested in. And then I start asking around and kind of reading up and looking at different things. I think I recall back when I was a kid, right? I really wanted to be an inventor. Back then I kind of read out things about like Edison, Galileo, and stuff, right? So like, I think it's very cool, invent stuff that the world uses up to these days. Of course, it evolved from there. So I really wanted to be an inventor. But then when I grew up, then I said, look at engineers. Do most of engineers I know are they inventors? I mean, like of course there are, right? Like James Dyson and stuff, but like the people I know, they're engineers. They're
not so many.
Yeah, they're working for a corporate, and then they're engineer. So then I think, okay, what else can I do to kind of impact lives and stuff? So then I look at people like Steve Jobs and Bill Gates and stuff. Oh, okay, they are in a way they're computer engineers, but they are also actually great business people. So I figured that okay, maybe doing business is a way to create things, to create things that people can use. Yeah. So I then woke up one day and then I just write into to NTU and say, can I change my course? I think that was actually 1 week or 2 weeks before school start or school camp starts, something like that. Yeah, fortunately I got their approval to change course. So I got into business course, and then kind of I think 1 year down you need to choose a specialization. Again, back then, I don't know what to specialize in because kind of everything seems to be related to business, right? And then I figured, okay, banking and finance is the most lucrative, supposedly. So I go with that again. Like I see most of my peers, they try to go into banking and finance. So okay, let's do that as well. Yeah. So, but of course, with the back of mind that I'm always so interested in how to do business and startups and stuff. Okay, at the time I think never really heard of the term startup. Yeah, we heard the term entrepreneurship, and business, all these things. So then one day, one of my friend from JC, he's an engineer, right? He's studying engineering in NTU as well. So he came to me, he said, hey, I have this like business plan competition. He designed something for, I can't remember, I think it's Toshiba or Hitachi, some kind of competition, but he needs to put together a business plan. So he designed something, but he needs to put together a business plan. So he comes to me to help. So like, oh yeah, okay, I can try out my what I learned in school and all the things I read up. So yeah, then from there I drew out a business plan for him, and then he competed, submitted a competition, and I think he won, maybe first prize or second prize, something like that. Yeah. So since then we kind of chat together and see things of how can we do more things together. Yeah. So since then I think because he has some programming skills and stuff, so he said, let's just try something that he can do, right? So we started doing projects, kind of like freelancing for people, creating websites and stuff. So we started a company building websites for people back then.
Back then, how did you all get those kind of gigs? Was it like through friends and acquaintances, or really marketing your services?
Yeah, so really a mixture because we really don't know, right? So we kind of talk to my friends, his friends.
What was the first project that you all work on? Or the first few memorable ones?
If I don't recall wrongly, I think the first one is for like a photographer, freelance photographer who wants to build his own portfolio, his website. Yeah, so yeah, that's that. We basically built a simple website to him. I kind of talk to the customer, understand his needs, what he's looking for in terms of design and stuff. I mean, I'm not a designer, but I try to pretend to be one and kind of get what he wants, and then we build it from there. Yeah, so always a mixture. And then of course we try out some marketing thing. Back then, Facebook was just starting. We haven't really got into Facebook then yet.
What do you mean marketing thing?
So things like simple flyers. At that time you don't know anything, right? So just put flyers, give out to houses or even to offices and stuff, right? So basically you see what other people do, other businesses do, and then you try it out. Maybe we post it on some forums, maybe as well. So just a bunch of different things you try out. Then after that, of course you get some one or two customers, and they kind of refer their friends and other businesses. So you kind of grew a little bit. I wouldn't say we are growing much, but it's still a good experience just to pick out certain things. And then I think there was a point where, so we started building a lot for blog shops. Back then, blog shops was like a thing, right? And then kind of the bigger blog shops had to figure out, because they have been collecting, payments and all these things manually, right? It's all via bank transfers and stuff, right? So the more savvy of them was thinking, how do they make it more automated?
Oh, right? Is that pinpoint you got from doing so many freelance jobs?
Correct.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that one will be a few years down after we graduated, and I was already working with Mapletree Investments. But we're still running this gig at the side, right? So then we kind of noticed this problem among our customers, the blog shop customers, that more and more they're coming to us to build websites for them, to build kind of e-commerce site for them. Now back then it's still a very
was Shopify active back then? No,
not then,
really.
not yes,
Okay.
correct. So it was like tough out. Then you use Magento and all these things. So you need coders to do that. And
was it just you and the team, or you're already like hire some freelancers?
It's just the two of us. We have another friend join us, a designer. I think maybe another freelancer on the side. So basically, just a very small team, few of us. So we noted the problem, and then I realized that this business is very hard because you kind of keep service, right? If you're the no client, you dry up, and then you need to keep going for clients, looking for clients, and then since our client projects can be quite difficult depending on the type of clients you get, right? And
difficult clients.
What's
the worst client have you had? no, because
yeah. But I mean, sometimes you get requests that you don't think are reasonable, but you still try to service them and stuff. Yeah, and I've been thinking this thing can't scale.
It's not something you want to do in the long run.
Correct. And back then I don't think we learned the term scale, but I'll kind of figure out if I want to grow much bigger, we need to have a lot more people. We need to service a lot more clients, right? And every job the margin is not great, right? Or otherwise you try to raise your price a lot, and then it kind of it's difficult. So then we just seeing this problem among blog shops. Like, how about we just create a product then that ideally, the ideal is that we create a product, people come use, and then we don't have to do anything and just pay us.
Leverage.
Yeah. So that was a thought then. Yeah. So that's where actually the idea of Paywhere was born. So to simplify edit, and there was a time where Facebook was growing up as well. So the thought was that, okay, what if we can a lot of people create shops on Facebook?
Okay.
Yeah, so that was actually one of the initial angles. So of course we have their own website, their shop, but also have a shop on Facebook, because that's when the businesses started marketing on Facebook. They're trying to figure out on Facebook. So we thought, how about we do that angle? Yeah, so that's where Paywhere came from. That's how then we spin off a company to do that, to focus on that exclusively. Yeah. So the carry on.
Yeah. Like then how long did it take for you to develop we would say MVP into something that's serviceable? How was the story behind the first few customers that got on board? How was it like trying to scale this? And I'm sure there's a story of how it eventually got sold, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, one step at a time. Yeah. Like for the MVP, right? How long do you take to do? Because I would only assume that it actually, in terms of capital cost, I don't think you guys were using capital cost. It's more of manpower hours to develop that particular product.
Yeah. So back then, I was still working, right, with Mapletree. My friend was just graduated from school.
Oh, is he younger?
He is but we're of the same age, but because he's taking engineering course, right? So it takes longer than me to graduate.
Okay.
Yeah. Correct. So we thought of this idea, right? And then we basically, but we know that we've created this product, right? It will not be profitable immediately, because you're going to take a while to ramp up the demand. Which means we need some kind of funding to sustain us during the development phase of things, right? And other R&D stuff. So we decided to apply for the NUS grant or something, funding like that. Yeah. So that was how only when we got approved for the grant to get started, that's when I quit my job. And then we go straight into that to build the product. I would say, because we have already building e-commerce websites for customers, so it's not too big of a leap to create an MVP from there. And then one of the first few customers is back to those who have come to us to build the e-commerce site for them. So we kind of tell them this is a newer model, and now you can sell on Facebook and stuff. So we get them on board as our first few customer. Yeah.
So may I one step back,
Yeah.
right? The juncture for you to really quit your job, I think is like a major one. Like, how did your parents, at least, let's say to anyone, let's say side hustling, right? Is there any advice you would give to, let's say, someone who is considering to jump ship, right? What were the conditions for you to quit the job? Because like the funding was a issue, was a main factor, right? Was there any other things that you looked out for? I would say I'm also probably in a similar position as well. Maybe my boss is watching. Right? Should I quit or not? Because there's a lot of other opportunities out there, right? What was the thought process back then?
Yeah, I guess the main thing, of course, like most typical Singaporeans, they are worried about, if they quit, without a job, what's going to happen to them, right? And then, so back then, basically listing down my considerations, right? But I'm still pretty young then. I'm not married yet. I have obligations. I have my parents to take care of in a way. So that's one thing to take note of. And I've been working in the job back then, I think about 2 years. I would say I was doing pretty well. The money is okay and stuff, and potential wise, I can go up the ranks and stuff in the investment world, right? So the opportunity cost feels quite big, right? But back then I was thinking, what if I don't do this now? Like 10 years later, will I still want to do it? Will I want to do it? So I think to myself, I try to project myself 10 years from now. 10 years from now, if version A, I'm still at this company or some similar company, still doing financial modeling and all these things for companies, versus running our own business and own startup and stuff, right? Of course, the second scenario, you don't know how it's going to be, but at least you have the experience about that. So I think that not so much of the attraction of running the business, but rather that I don't really want to play tied to a desk-bound job 10 years from now. So that's one thing. And back then, I kind of think that I would rather regret trying something than to regret not doing it. Yeah. So weighing that, I kind of think that, I think I want to try it. But of course, I think I still consider what are the risk factors, because I was also in risk management then. Risk factors, how can I mitigate the risk and stuff? So then I said, okay, I have built up, 1-2 years, I built a bit of savings. Because when I was undergrad, I was also working as well, some savings, and I don't really spend a lot. So I think even if I go without income, I could go for quite a while, right? And then, so we secure a grant and stuff. It's not much, but you can still run for a while, and our expenses are pretty low, right? So I think, there's quite a few, we can run for quite a while, without income and stuff. And what's the worst case scenario? Worst case scenario, I come back to my boss, right? Hey, boss, can I come back and stuff, right?
Did you talk to your boss about it? Like, what was the thought process and how he ran? Was he supportive? Was he like, what the hell are you doing? That kind.
So interestingly, I don't know whether this is a very naive move. When I've interviewed, so when she kind of make the offer, right, I actually told her that I have this side hustle going on. And I may want to do this in the long term, right? And fortunately, she was like, okay with it,
Maple Tree, I would imagine it's like a very traditional sort of. I don't know.
Yeah, I would think so too. But I guess my boss is a bit more forward thinking. Fortunately,
that's good. That's good.
Yeah. So she's quite supportive. And then so she let me do that. I still recall it's quite funny, because when you're working full time, right, so you can only work on a side at night, right? So you get pretty tired. So there'll be times in the day I'll be dozing off at the desk. Yeah.
Back then we need to go to office, right?
Yeah, to go to office, right? It's every day. Okay, but I think I still do my job pretty well.
You think?
So I kind of do my job, and then I kind of fell asleep sometimes. She'll walk past my desk. Back then I didn't know. I think she didn't know. I think that she didn't know back then. My colleagues were always teasing me about it. But actually, a few years later, when I met her again, actually she knows about it. She knows that I doze off and stuff. But fortunately, she's really okay with it, because as long as I did my work, she's like, okay, you can just take a nap or whatever. Yeah. So that's
not many people are lucky to have that boss though.
Yeah. So I guess I'm pretty fortunate in the aspect, and I could still work on my thing at the side. Yeah. So back to then. So I was basically, so the decision come to make the jump, right? So I talked to my boss. She understood that, but I think we negotiated. Basically, she negotiated for a longer notice period for me to at least hand over my stuff to my colleagues. Yeah, so I agreed to that. While I can still work on my thing on the side, right? And then she knows about that. So I'm pretty fortunate in that aspect. Yeah. So that's why I made the jump. I think looking at all the risk factors, and I think the risk of not doing it is much higher, right? Then if I try to attempt it like 10 years from then, right, which I may be married, I may have more commitments, and then if I take the leap, it's going to be more risk involved.
For this particular thought process that you developed, right, was it, let's say, through other influences? You mentioned that you listened to the Tim Ferriss podcast. Were you reading books? Were you listening to anything? Or mainly it's just your thought process and how you got there? Because I don't think this kind of thought process is pretty common or like
back
apparent.
then, no. Back then, I haven't heard of Tim Ferriss yet. Yeah. And I would say back then, I haven't really picked up my reading habit back then, I would say. It's really just okay, so I have a couple of friends that also, they started a business and stuff, right? So I kind of talk to them and see what they're doing. And I guess to me, I don't see them being very miserable about their choice, right? They still go about doing their business and stuff, right? Of course, I don't know the nitty-gritty of the up and downs now, but I feel like they felt they are doing something meaningful. Yeah. So that's really it. And then I talked to actually a lot of my other peers who's already working. So a lot of them, of course, have very different views, conventional views, right? They say, why you want to do this? You're in the banking and finance, right? And Maple Tree is quite a good company, right?
You're set already for.
Yeah. So, but I guess in a way a little bit contrary is like, the more I hear of them, all of them saying this, and I'm thinking maybe there's something different that I could do, right? That otherwise, in a way, I guess sometimes I'm a bit competitive. So I said, no, I keep doing the same thing, right? Then I'll be the same like everybody, right? And you
don't want to be anybody, is it?
Yeah, I guess in the way that time I had this ego about me, right? Like, you just keep competing in the same field. It's a race that you cannot win, right? And it's very common for especially banking and finance, students, graduates to talk about, look at pay, look at how fast you rise, kind of thing. And I feel like it's not something that I want to be involved in, to compete in that kind of situation. Yeah, it's not something that I would win, for example, right? It's always a goal that keeps pushing further away. So yeah, so that's why I decided to try something different.
Back to your time at being CEO or CFO at Paywhere, right? How's it like? Like, what are the ups and downs? What's the process? What was a day like of a CFO, CEO when it comes to?
Well, I mean, every day is different depending on the stage of the company you're at, right? So at the start, it's a very small company. We build a product. We kind of try to market it, try to pitch it to investors, etc.
When you say pitching to investors, you have reached out to VC firms or you have contacts that you're familiar with?
Yeah, so we went through NUS Enterprise, right? So with NUS Enterprise, they actually introduced us to different, there's networking events, angel investors, they introduce us to them. So we kind of practice our pitches to different investors, get turned down and scolded and stuff, which we then turn into feedback to how we improve our pitch, how we improve our product.
What things have you learned about pitching? Or being shut down? I assume that you're a pitching pro now, dude.
Well, that's quite some time ago. I think one thing about learn about pitching is really to be open-minded. Yeah. And
how do you make it not personal? Sometimes I feel like when it comes to these kind of things, right, it's very personal, like your idea sucks or like that kind of stuff. Okay, I'm not sure if you receive feedback like that, but like how do you really detach yourself? I mean, that's the thing that I think some people might face.
So I think in general, most investors are not so blunt because I think they also want to build rapport with potential entrepreneurs that they could invest in the future, but they don't really want to burn bridges all the time.
Burn bridges.
Yeah, right. So in general, people will still try to be pretty nice to you, but of course they can give pretty objective statements. So really, I guess you at first you will feel a little bit hurt because it's like a baby, right, and stuff. But at the end of the day, like I treat them that okay, they are more experienced people, right? They know things that I don't know about, and well, I just take in their advice and see whether it applies to us or not. But I think one thing I did learn or did figure out within ourselves is that a lot of them give a lot of credible advice, but not all of them necessarily apply to us. And it's actually detrimental if you listen to everything and try to apply it, and you kind of
all advice eventually cancels to zero, is it?
In a way, so you need to kind of figure out which one you want to try out to listen to. Yeah, of course, if you listen to everything, then basically you're not running your own business. You are just following along, and then people say one thing you follow, and then another person say you sway, and then
it's all contradicting, is it? Some of them.
In a way, sometimes you contradict, or sometimes it kind of leads you to different priorities, I would say. Right? Some say you focus on this, and you focus on this, then you change a little bit. So then your product kind of loses direction in what kind of things you go, or what kind of focus you will look at. And it becomes very distracting, especially for founders. Yeah, so for those who are pitching now, as I would say, of course you should take in the advice, listen, and then really dissect it and see whether it really works for you. Yeah. So then we kind of pitches, we get funded, fortunately, to grow the product and grow the company. So pretty typical, SaaS service company route. We help your company get some users, and then we iterate the product, get some traction to that. And then, of course, as usual, we kind of start running our money before we could get enough customers, right? So then we go for another round of funding and stuff.
You say get funding, is it a very easy thing once you roughly know what's the process?
No, so that's okay. So I think for the first round for the angel investing is not too bad. Because the angel came in, she kind of believes in us, so she's like a mentor, right? And she kind of believes in us, so that for the next round, right, the kind of seed funding is tougher, right? So we actually ran into a situation. So there was this particular incident where we kind of agree with a deal with an investor. But of course, it takes time, right? Due diligence and stuff to complete. And then, at the time, then during that period, you're kind of running down on cash and all these things, right? And you already have staff on board and you feel responsible for them.
How big was the team then?
Back then, I believe we were about 7 or 8 people. Yeah. And basically, it was kind of like the first time that you kind of hire people, right? And once you hire people, you realize that you actually have a responsibility for their livelihood. Right, they believe in you, right? Although you have nothing, and then you started this, and then they believe in you, and they join you at an opportunity cost of other jobs, right? So you feel very responsible for their livelihood and their career. So you kind of get anxious, I think, especially as a CFO, looking at the cash and all these things, and you know that the cash will run out very soon. So, but we thought that we secured the deal, right? At the last moment, the investor threw in a clause. That they want to add in this clause that is there's a deal breaker for us, there's a blocker for us. I can't remember exactly what it's called. Something like something like they could in the next round they could invest or purchase up to 51% or something without it's their right to do that, something like that. You can't, yeah. So
red flag.
So that's a big red flag because it came in so late, right? And they probably know that we're getting desperate, right? So it's definitely a red flag. And then, of course, at the time, it's like,
oh my God,
what are you going to do, man? Wow, you take this deal, you're going to be stuck, right? In the future, potentially it's a big issue. You can't grow and you're stuck under them and stuff, right? But if you don't take it,
you die.
Yeah, you probably will die, right? The odds are that you'll die. So, me and my co-founders are like really quite stressed out over that. Yeah.
How did y'all make the decision?
So in the end, we chose not to take the deal. Because we see there's no point, right? If you want to grow something and it's going to be blocked in the future, potentially blocked in the future. So there's no point in trying to, and then the motivation for the staff and us will not be there, right? And there's no point to take the deal, right? It's basically lose-lose.
How fast did y'all make this deal? Was it like overnight, or did y'all meet up? Or I don't know, I'm just imagining.
Quite fast because the situation is dire, right? We need to decide quickly. So I would say within 1 or 2 days probably. We probably cram ourselves in a room and kind of talk things out and like bang our heads in the wall. Because actually I believe that there's not too much decision to make. It's either this or that, right? It's just getting over the emotional hurdle. So it's just talking things out, and then we kind of rationally decided this is the way to go. And of course, then we quickly try to scramble for other investors, and then figure out how do we pay our staff, right? And eventually, So, So actually, I think myself, we actually put in a little bit more of my savings, to fund the company. Me and another one of co-founder put in more of our savings to help pay the salaries. because it takes time to find an investor, right?
What was the runway? Was it like 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, half a year?
I think that time was maybe 2 months.
Wow, shit.
1 or 2 months, yeah. So there was a point where I know I actually screenshotted this like this. My bank account had like $200+ left. I sold everything. Like I had some stocks investments, back from American, so I sold everything. Put in all my savings.
All in.
All in already. Yeah. I didn't tell anybody back then. I didn't tell my parents. I didn't tell my girlfriend back then and stuff. So it's like there's $200+ left in my bank.
It must have been scary, man. Like,
yeah, that's
could you
quite
sleep?
scary.
Could you sleep at night? Like,
No, there were really nights that it's really hard to sleep. Okay, but at least at that point, we kind of secured another investor already. Just waiting for all the paperwork to go through and stuff. But of course, having the earlier incident, you are never confident until the money is in, right? So you still get.
Are you very paranoid when you run through? I was going to ask you, like, what are red flags when it comes to getting funding?
Correct. So from lesson, you know that nothing's confirmed until the money comes in. Correct. So you always get anxious. And actually, I think we went 1 or 2 months that we actually don't have enough already. So we had to tell the staff. So again, that was also a difficult thing to do. Whether you tell them.
How do you handle morale in such a case? Because I think
thing.
like the vibes would be just so negative.
Yeah, correct. Because you kind of have to decide whether you tell them in a very positive. Like tell them, the funding is already confirmed. It's just a matter of weeks, days, right? When the funding is in, we'll pay you back, right? No worries about that. It's like you can go from the approach, but at the back of mind is not 100% guaranteed, right? Or we go for a bit more honest, sincere approach.
So I'm assuming that's the way
that's where we go. Because I think we have enough trust with our staff back then. And we are pretty open, I think, in most of our communications to them, in how the company is doing and stuff, right? So, of course, we get an option. I mean, if they have to leave, we kind of respect that, because it's their choice. But if you stay on with us, couple more months, we think the investment's coming in. We can't guarantee you that. But if you stick with us, of course, definitely, I think we'll grow these things together and stuff. So, fortunately for us, again, none of them quit. Then from there, we kind of survive again and for another ride. Yeah.
So there were some months where they didn't take pay, is it?
2 months. 2 months,
Wow.
I believe. Yeah.
Wow, shit.
Yeah, that was quite crazy. I also don't know why they stay for the 2 months. Yeah.
One last thing to follow up, right? What are red flags when it comes to getting funding? Or basically just the clauses that you have to look out for?
Yeah, I think pretty much when you Google or you ask around, there's pretty standard term sheet standard clauses in most, it depends on market, right? But at that period of time, usually there's pretty standard clauses. So whenever an investor or what asks for something different, I think that's something that we really need to sit up and look at. Especially things that relates to dilution or to preference shares and all these things, right? So you have to look at what the standard industry is doing, right, versus what they're offering. If something that's very different, is something that jumps out to mind, you kind of want to understand why they're asking for that. So that I won't say red flags, but flags basically. The red flag will come when they insert these things later on, right? If they are transparent, right, they tell everything in the beforehand. I feel that's fair, right? Even if it's different from the industry, at least they can tell you beforehand what's that and explain to you their rationale behind that, and then you can kind of make a decision yourself. Because investors know, right? Most startups, time is equals money, right? Yeah. So the longer you drag, the longer into a particular deal, it reduces the time for the startup, right? And sometimes because once you accept a term sheet, right, means you are rejecting other term sheets. Means you're not negotiating with other investors anymore. You can't close the door. And to restart the process again is going to take a long time. So then, in a way, the leverage is more on the investor in a sense. So I think one thing is it's so important to be comfortable to build a rapport to the particular person, because some VCs or investors, they have a few people, right, that you in the firm, but there's usually only 1 or 2 that you talk to on a regular basis. I think it's important to kind of build a rapport, to understand the person, to let the person understand you as well, because that is also likely to be a person you're going to work with long term after the investment. Yeah. So if you don't have a good vibe about that, of course, it depends on how much luxury you have. Definitely, of course, they say you try to raise money earlier than you really need, because then you can buy more time to do that. Don't try to do it when you're in a very desperate mode, because then your choices get very limited. Yeah. So, and I think it's also kind of difficult, especially for first-time entrepreneurs. I think for me back then, I feel like I couldn't trust my gut feeling.
You couldn't trust your gut feeling.
Because like when I talk to, like, sometimes we kind of, gut, we kind of has this feeling that you don't feel too good about this, but you can't justify it in terms of, by your analysis and stuff, right? And then you just kind of listen and go along and stuff. But I think as I grow as a developer, you kind of realize that actually sometimes your body is telling you something that you are just consciously don't know yet. You maybe your body picks up some patterns that is a danger, and stuff. So I will say some advice for that is that maybe sometimes try to listen a little bit more to yourself, your body, and then dive deeper into that. Yeah. I think that's something new entrepreneurs kind of struggle with. I believe.
Something not so tangible, but basically
it's not tangible. I can't really define what is that thing, but it's basically like a bodily feeling. I'm sure everybody says when they feel something not really right, they can't feel it, but they can't really explain it. And I think you kind of practice. It's kind of practice. As you get more attuned to it in the future, you kind of get the sense of it. So but at the end of the day, I think it's how much chemistry or rapport can build with the investor. Yeah. And what you think, what they say, and what they feel about you, kind of.
Back in those days, was it like in person? It's not like Zoom meeting.
Yeah, definitely. It's all in person. Okay. Yeah, so there's no. In a way, it's good, I guess, because it's a more in person thing, right? Yeah, but of course, by just personality, I was always a little bit anxious of meeting new people, strangers, and especially when people who I view like more senior, up there and
they
stuff,
got the money.
Right? Correct. They have the money to experience, like, who am I, right? They talk, I listen, right? That kind of thing. Yeah. So, but it comes with experience. So you talk to more people. You just keep trying, and you kind of pick out the patterns over time. Yeah. And I think with talk to more, you kind of start to see, who are really more sincere, more authentic, versus those that are really very transactional. Yeah. So, and then
what kind of investor are you after? The transactional one, not emotional, but more people centric, is it?
Yeah.
Basically, it's just an observation, or no preference.
Yeah.
You got the money, can already.
Depends on your style, because some investors, some entrepreneurs prefer you give me the money and you don't talk to me anymore, and then I just do the things, right? Some entrepreneur want the very hands-on investor, right? Talk to you and stuff, right? So, and of course, there's always a balance. Sometimes if there's too much micromanaging on you, then you also can't run your business.
It's like having another boss. You want to be the boss.
Correct. Yeah. So I think it's important to choose someone's kind of balance in between. You want someone who is there when you need them, to talk to them, to listen to you and give you the proper advice, but you don't want them to be looking over your shoulder every week and asking you to submit reports all the time, right? So there's a balance here to look. For me, at least, that's the type that I look for. Yeah.
In your experience, let's say on this point, right, on the process of raising money all the way to them giving you money, right, what, in your opinion, is the most difficult? Like, is it raising the money, or is it like communication with them after the thing, or is it like, or eventually them wanting to cash out their investments? What was of this whole process? Or just part and parcel? Is there any parts which you feel are easier, slightly troublesome? What's your opinion?
Everything is a bit difficult to a certain extent. I think raising money is, basically is whether you can get them to buy in your dream, right, your vision of the product, and of course your actual result and your traction. So to me, that's not say easy or difficult. Is quite straightforward to me, right, in the sense that if we can show them there's a potential in our product and company, they will like it, right, and then they will want to invest. And then it's kind of then thinking who is a better partner to work with and stuff. Right? If they don't invest, then of course they don't see our value in that. Then there's something that we should work on, right? Or we can move on to another investor who can kind of see the fit. So to me, it's not so difficult. It's just that it's straightforward. You can't work. Okay, we improve ourselves. Talk to another person. I think post investment will be probably more tricky because you kind of really have another person or company kind of like a boss kind of thing, and you feel responsible, right? Because at first you are responsible for employees because you can't hire them. Now you have another set of responsibility because you're taking their money, right?
Yeah.
And it's not your money they are spending. So you feel responsible to give them, get them the returns, get them the growth that they want. So and that's the part where you kind of manage, right? Because I think a lot of entrepreneurs is that it's quite difficult to kind of talk every single problem to your investors also. Right, because you always try to project. Everything good, no problem, right? We are growing,
Yeah.
And back then, but then at the back of my mind, these things is like don't know what's happening, and then you have no idea what you're doing and stuff, right? Because at the back of my mind, you always think, okay, there's always potential next round and all these things, right? So you always try to project a positive image, and I think in a way that sometimes mentally, emotionally, it gets very I don't know, you feel like a bit schizo in a sense, like on the outside, we have stuff, and then you're internally, you're like struggling, thinking how to do that. So it gets, it can get pretty lonely in that aspect. I think that's lonely is not just because you're investors, but just the whole journey as a whole, as an entrepreneur. But definitely with investors, you have the additional stress on that. Yeah. I think that is the most probably challenging part in terms of managing your investors' expectations, to manage yourself, to try to how to be a little bit more honest, I guess. And
be a little bit more honest.
Tactful, in a sense. Because, like I say, at one point you try to be so positive, telling everything, right? But then
suddenly, if you roti prata, tell them the bad news. Then
correct, right? And sooner or later, the bad news will come out, right? Yeah. So it's better that you balance it and kind of give them the whole complete picture as early as possible. Yeah. So that actually then they can trust in you, right? That even though it's bad news, but you kind of
assure. Not assure.
Yeah, kind of they know that okay. At least he's aware of what's going wrong.
Yeah.
Rather than he keep telling me all the good things, then maybe he's not aware of what's going wrong, right? That's something that if I put myself in their shoes, right? It's like he keep telling me everything good, maybe there's something bad that he's not telling me with. So that's where I think the balance for the entrepreneur psychologically to adjust their mindset to that. Yeah.
You talked about being lonely as an entrepreneur, right? Do you deal with it, or it's part and it's you feel like it's just part of the job essentially, or it's not an issue to you?
It is an issue. I think.
How do you deal with loneliness? How do you deal with loneliness in entrepreneurship? If you do, some people don't. I don't.
Actually, how I try to deal with it is that I kind of tell myself that it is an emotion that comes and goes, as with all emotions. So try to be a bit more stoic about that, I guess. I kind of had that feeling actually just quite recently, just a couple of weeks ago, and it's I mean you kind of understand why you get you realize that you get lonely because there's certain things you can't really tell your staff or can't really discuss with them. They might not have there's a gap in terms of understanding and stuff. It's also hard for you to talk to investors. Again, there's a gap, right, in terms of expectations, all these things. Talk to some of your peers, those who are not in entrepreneurship. I mean, they will give you some moral support and stuff, but
different frequency,
right? A lot of entrepreneurs will talk to other entrepreneurs, I think, and they kind of build a kind of support group around that. For me, I actually don't that much. Maybe it's just my personality. It's kind of I kind of always, I think in the startup community, kind of always hear failures are kind of celebrated in a sense, and people learn from that. But I guess I can't really get around that. I absolutely is frightened to fail and hate failing. So I couldn't really go around celebrating failures and all these things. Of course, you read enough, I know that a lot of people try, fail, and they do again and stuff. So in a sense, I still feel that there's not too many people that I can talk to in terms of the actual problem they are facing. But at the end of the day, I kind of tell myself, it's my path, right, that I chose to do this. And what I learned is that usually the first time you feel this, right, you are looking at a problem it looks very big in your mind, right? But if you just take the time, calm down. So what I usually do is that if I get into such a funk in my mind, right?
Yeah.
What I usually do is I'll just write all my thoughts, all my emotions, everything down. I may go for a workout. That's why we go to the gym pod.
Nice plug.
Yeah. So basically just have some time to myself, do certain things, expend some energy. But the writing helps in a sense.
Where do you pick up this habit? Or it was something that you have always done?
So actually I learned that from Tim Ferriss himself. I think he talked about the morning journals and all these things. I don't write every day, but more of when I get into this funk, I have this notebook that I always
Is it paper or computer?
Paper.
Wow.
Yeah, always paper.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'll just write everything. Sometimes it doesn't really make sense and stuff, right? So that just all my emotion, I feel like, wow, then why am I feeling this way? And then, like, who is making me feel this way? Kind of thing.
Basically a rant.
Yeah, just a rant. And sometimes I have ideas or problems that I'm looking at. I'll just write it down as well. Solutions by the moment make sense. I'll just write it down. So usually after that, I feel a bit better. And then okay, let's sit down and look at the problem. Can I break down the problem into smaller parts? So that's where usually I get better. By breaking the thing into parts, I kind of say, okay, there's this problem. Actually, there are 10 micro problems in this big problem. Let's see what I can solve first. Or can somebody else in my team take out the problem and solve it, right? So then I work on that. So in them become more palatable. And I think because of the process, then you kind of calm down, feels a bit better and stuff. Yeah. So of course, emotionally, fortunately I have a wife that listens to my rant and all these things, So that support is important to have, I guess, a supportive family.
Is she an entrepreneur?
She's not. But I fortunately, she's really always interested to hear what I have to say about stuff, and she'll ask me questions. I guess if she finds it intriguing.
You guys should start a podcast.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, maybe you should do a podcast about the wife of an entrepreneur, how to support one.
No, you guys should have. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Maybe we could have a podcast. Yeah, actually, some of the conversations that we have is quite interesting. And actually, during the conversation with her, that's where I pop out the idea of the gym pod. Actually.
Whoa.
Yeah. Yeah. So I digress about that. Yeah.
No worries.
Yeah. So yeah, on the only part and stress part, that's really usually how I handle that. Yeah.
I think that's a good solution. If I can go back, right, let's say in my current position of career, whether if you're an entrepreneur or not, right, you will eventually deal with people and managing people, and I find it quite mind blowing that you're able to not say persuade or psycho people to stay on a company without any pay for 2 months. Like, what's your secret sauce to that? When it comes to advice you could give to others in terms of managing people, how do you go about taking the right buttons to let them or inspire them in a way to work for you? Because like what you say, opportunity cost, they could be working anywhere else in the world, but they've chose to work at your company. What advice would you give to managing people?
I think at the end of the day is people to people. And you also realize that managing people, every individual your management style to every individual should be a little bit different, depending on who they are, how they behave, their preference, and all these things. But I think before you reach that point where you kind of going to tell me, I'm not going to give you pay for 2 months, right? What you build up right from the start when you hire them, right, is important. Basically, I think what we did kind of right maybe is that we are pretty honest and authentic with them throughout, even when they start work. And we kind of treat them, like people, like not exactly like friends, but we kind of build up good relationship, good rapport, that we can talk about things pretty openly. Yeah. So by the time when you reach a stage where this is crisis and all these things, right? It's kind of like a friend where a friend comes to you and then he's like down and stuff, and he give you some bad news, right? You wouldn't like, hey, wow, you suck, man. I don't talk to you anymore, right? So they also kind of feel for you as well. Right, of course they have to think about their own situation, right? But in a way, it's like I'm coming to you because I'm telling you this early that you're not going to pay because I kind of empathize for you as well. I'm thinking for your situation, and similarly, I think they also think back about the same for us as well. So in that, we kind of build a rapport of trust and willing to sacrifice, I guess, a little bit for each other. Yeah. So. I think they can see the sacrifice in the sense that we put in, because I'm not sure if they know that they probably may kind of get the sense that we are not anxious and all these things, that we are putting in our own money and all these things, working late at night, just to make sure the company is running all these things. So I think they can also see the effort they are putting in. That is also for them. Yeah. So I think that's where the people connection is important. Not just again, the style, some different founders have different styles of managing people. I think for us, so there's one saying, one is hire fast, you fire fast, right? For us, we actually don't really believe in that. We like to give them more chance to grow. We put them roles in where they're probably not prepared in yet, and but we think that they can do it. They can try to learn and do it. And as long as we see people really putting in effort, really trying to learn, and learning from their mistakes, right, we are very comfortable with that, and we are comfortable with them making mistakes. I think that's been one thing probably we've been very open. Even now with my team, with new team in Gym Pod, right, being very open is that it's okay for you to make mistakes as long as you don't make the same mistake twice, right? Yeah, it's okay to do things, try out things without my approval first if you think it's the right thing to do, right? As long as it's not a catastrophic thing, right? So just go ahead, and then if it's wrong, we just figure it out. So I think that's something that I always preach to my staff, and I think they, in a way, they quite appreciate that. So even when things go bad from my side and stuff, I think they give me some leeway as well. Yeah.
Where do you think you got this from? Was it like just your upbringing as a child, or like do you listen to any HR guru? I don't know. Is it our research? Like how do you manage to, because like what you're saying is a very ideal. I mean, in my current company, my boss is also very similar to what you do. You allow people to make mistakes, but how do you arrive at that kind of style of working? Is it how do you have any idea how, or is it just who you are?
I think a combination, definitely a part of who I am. Because again, I also started from nothing, right? I don't come from a rich family and stuff. I just started from nothing and then built. And then fortunately, there are customers, investors, all this. They give me the chance to grow and stuff. So similarly, then I feel that I should behave the same way for my employees. And in the first place, they join me. They are giving me a chance, right? Because again, when I started, there's nothing, right? It's just a vision of the pod and stuff, right? I'm not offering them like astronomical Google Pay and all these things, right? So they are giving me a chance as well. So I feel that I should give them back, the room, the space to grow. And a lot of times when people join startups, I think one of the things is also, other than they're not looking just for the pay, right? They're looking for things to try, to learn, to explore, right? So I feel that I have to fulfill my side of the promise, right? As long as their effort and attitude is right? So maybe also a little bit, I used to coach taekwondo.
Oh, okay, that totally makes sense.
Correct. Yeah, so back in NTU, I was a player there, and then after that I also was a coach. So in terms of coaching, it's kind of the same thing, right? Like a lot of people are white belts to go to black belt, and then they're new to competition, all these things, right? So you have to let them, give them try out and make mistakes, and you coach them along the way. You need to have patience, basically, right? Otherwise, you just give up on them, then there's nothing they can do. Yeah, so I guess maybe a bit from that as well.
Got it. Moving forward to after you got the funding, everything, what's the happy ending for Paywhere?
I think we by then we expanded to Philippines. We had a partner, a telco, in Philippines.
Were they a client? So how is their connection?
Yeah, in the first place, in a way, they are a client. It's kind of partner, the kind of resell for us. So in a way, the big gigantic reseller for us in the market. So naturally, when we wanted to raise the next round of funds to grow faster, right, we kind of go to them first, right? Hey, since we are really partners in this market, invest in us, and then we kind of take this to other markets. Yeah, and we have quite a good working relationship with them. So surprisingly, they came back with we just want to buy you out. Yeah, so that was a bit of a surprise to us. And
run through that thought process, like they're gonna buy your baby. Were you shocked, happy, elated? Oh, it's over for me, or that kind of stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, I think a mixture. I don't think we are super elated back then, because we weren't really looking to sell at that point. But it also it's a tough decision to make, because the other decision is to reject them, right? And then you kind of think, if we reject them now, I mean, one thing to think about is, if we reject them now, are they still going to be our partners in the market? Right.
And it's a big market, or a significant market.
It's a significant market. I mean, considering that back then, for between us, then, and if we are not partners, because we're reselling through them, right? A lot of customers are their customers, right? Are we going to lose that market? That's one thought.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay.
Right? That's one thought. And that would
You thought of
potentially...
the consequence of rejecting them first.
Correct. Because it's a bit different. They are not a VC, right? They are like a real business running there, and then we're selling through them. So they're like a supply partner and stuff. So in a sense, they have a little bit of leverage, right? Then the thought is, if we reject them, so you might lose that, and then would that be harder for us to get another investor because we can't lose a big market for us, right? So that's why we were not elated back then because of this possibility, to be frank. And then of course we talked to our investors as well, our shareholders and all these things. So our shareholders was like, yeah, I mean, okay, so frankly, back then, although we were growing in Southeast Asia, of course, our product is very similar to Shopify, right? And we know about Shopify, right? It's growing. We kind of started around the same time, and then we know Shopify is really big.
Yeah,
they grew very quickly, right? And the mechanics in Southeast Asia is very different from in the US in terms of funding and the market channels and all these things. So, although at that time we kind of quite a little bit different in the sense that back then payment methods were very fragmented in Southeast Asia. There was no GrabPay and all these things, right? It's very fragmented. So we were one of the few that actually have all these different payment methods in each country that's integrated to our product. So that's gives us some kind of edge. But we know that one day payments could be standardized. Shopify coming, all these things, right? So there's a big track coming in potentially. Are we equipped to deal with that? Of course, one stance is to believe in ourselves. We can do it, right? We grind out. I think we can grow and compete. And then we can compete with Shopify and whatever is coming.
Wow,
right?
okay.
That's one stance to do that, right? So of course, the story. You all know the story ending is that we decided, okay, this is our first foray, right? First true foray into entrepreneurship with VCs and all these things. Let's take the deal. Take the deal. And we also decided, because after acquire, we're going to work with them, right? For foreseeable future, right? So are we happy working with them? So honestly speaking, they were good partners, right? So we like the people too. And if we join with them, they have a bigger team, much bigger team of engineers that we can work with and develop the product faster. So at the end of the day, we decided, okay, so in a way, it's good for our investors, right? They get their returns. It's good for our employees, they are kind of secure in a way. Those with options to cash out. In a way, it's good for our customers because we have more engineers. We can build things better, faster. In a way, we kind of cash out, and kind of have our first little victory kind of thing, to celebrate about. So we decided to take on the thing, accept the acquisition, So I think to now, no regrets about that. We are happy with that. It's not like a gigantic acquisition and stuff, but it's still something that kind of validate our effort over the years. Yeah.
So after that end, right, I'm just curious, like there's so many ideas, opportunity costs, right? There's so many things that you might have wanted to try, right? Then how did that led to Gym Pod?
Yeah, okay. So after the acquisition, usually the founders are bonded, right, to work for the company.
How long was this bond? Yeah.
3 years.
Wow,
which is
long.
long. Yeah,
Yeah,
I think
long.
maybe we should have negotiated a better deal. Looking back, yeah, really. Back then, I would have negotiated differently if back then. But so it's 3 years, and you always have that in your mind, right? Whether what you're going to do after 3 years, you're going to stay on and stuff. And frankly speaking, to be honest, as a founder, you do lose a bit of motivation after you get acquired fully, right? And joining a big company, there's definitely also difficult things, hierarchy, right? And there's different
procedures,
departments, all these things, a little bit of politics to deal with. So it gets a bit jaded, I guess, in a way.
It's like another corporate environment that you have put yourself in.
Yeah. So I'm like okay,
shit.
I'm pretty much okay. Then I'm like, okay, let's do the next thing, right? So actually, back on my mind, I was thinking of after the 3 years, maybe I'll just take a break, chill, read about, listen to podcasts, or maybe I'll do a podcast or whatever.
You should.
That kind of thing. Like just chill for a while and see what to do. But I think just maybe using and that was a time where I started to try to exercise a little bit again. Because so I was pretty active in school. I was like in taekwondo and stuff. I joined competitions, all these things, right? So I was pretty active and training for maybe a couple of years even after graduation. But as you know, with stuff and stuff, you kind of lose the time and physical age And then I wasn't putting on weight and stuff. I've always been a very skinny guy. And I was still a very skinny guy. Like, wow, okay. And okay, let's do some work on myself, right? So frankly, after acquisition, you have a little bit more time.
You're not like pulling 12 to 16 hours.
Correct. Yeah, and then okay, let's put some attention back to myself now, and then, let's work out a little bit and
get those gains.
Yeah, let's get those gains. Get a bit more muscle. You don't want to be skinny all your life, although still am, still trying.
No lah.
Yeah. So that's when I started interested in fitness. Watching YouTube videos, working out, trying different things. Going back to also my taekwondo training a little bit back then, but as you get older, you don't really want to get kicked that much anymore.
Age comes in.
Yeah, age comes in. So I just want to train myself. So I started exploring gyms and all these things Then I encountered those problems I talked about earlier.
Okay. It ties in so nicely.
Yeah, correct. But as I exercise, right, I realized that actually it's good for my productivity. I realized that, I'm going to work, I feel better, I feel more energized, I feel a bit more creative, right? I feel happier in general. So I realized, actually, then I when you do research and stuff, exercise actually do make a person happier. So I think, actually, the fitness industry is actually doing a very good thing for people because if people get fit, they get happier, they get more productive in general as a whole. If everybody is exercising, right, the whole society will be in a way better. So I thought, actually, it's quite an interesting thing that you could go into and deliver some impact to people's life. Yeah. And then I'm thinking, but there's no solution for people like me.
Okay.
Yeah. And so that's when I really started to draw a list of friends that I know they work out, or rather different profile of fitness people. So people who go to the gym regularly, people who work out. Yeah. So I talked to every single one of them. Tell them about this idea and stuff. I still really haven't fully formed the idea. I kind of say that I wanted something very private, and using tech to make it totally unmanned, people DIY.
I mean, that's your expertise from Paywhere.
Yeah, correct. So that everybody do things can do by themselves, and there's no interference for salespeople, for PTs, all these things. So I started with all these friends and stuff but I was still not very serious about it. I was just you
were still serving your bond.
I was still serving my bond.
Sounds like a scholarship.
Yeah. Then and then a friend told me about. So I was looking at. So then I was staying in a HDB, right? I see a lot of empty corners in the HDB, and there's fitness corner. I know every HDB fitness corner.
A bit lame.
And then cannot use raining, cannot use, too hot, cannot use. Then everything's body weight. Maybe that time, what if I cannot do pull-ups, right? Then how? That sort of thing, right? So I thought, but these tiny corners, if you could only put a little bit shelter, have some aircon, right? People can use it as a gym, right? And people in the neighborhood can share, right? And then just take turns using it, sharing the time and space for that. So I was just had the idea. So then a friend told me, why don't you use shipping container? I was like, oh wow, that's never thought of before. Right, because I was thinking of exploring different. I was thinking of using cardboard, aluminum, different the crazy idea. Yeah, so then I started really exploring that. I'll kind of explore how do you get shipping containers? Can they be rented? Can they be modified? Kind of materials, how light and all these kind of things.
How does one get a shipping container?
So there are
the first one that you got at One North, right? Where do you You just asked around, ask you.
Basically, Google, man.
Oh, Google. Wow.
Yeah, I asked around. So my friend had contact. He the one who recommended me in the shipping container. So he was in the shipping industry. So he had contact. I Googled for containers that buy shipping container, rent shipping containers. Right, they pop up. Right, so you just reach out to them. Then the next challenge is where to put it. You can't just put a shipping container anywhere, right?
In Singapore, at least you need to get anything licensed.
Correct. So back then, I was still not very serious about it because can I really do this? Who will let me put a container anywhere, right? So I basically writing to people that are contacts that I know. Basically, my office was in JTC, right off back then, right? All the staffs are. So I wrote into the JTC officer who was in charge of my unit. I wrote into town council of Tampines where I was staying. Yeah, we weren't expecting much. I just write, hey, I want to have this idea to try out and stuff. So fortunately, the JTC, the one-off people were very supportive because they try new things. I think they had plans to kind of build some kind of fitness corner, all these things build some amenity. Because my pitch back then was my angle that in one-off you have stars and all this, but there's no fitness for entrepreneurs, right? They need to work out, they need to distress, right? So that's the angle of my pitch. I guess fortunately,
but you're experienced already, right? By then,
So I guess with that, I can fine-tune the pitch a little bit. Yeah. So I think that's what they were looking for. So they offered me a piece of the land to try out, and then I was like, oh wow, okay. So actually, back then I realized that some of the hurdles that because I talk to people say you can't do it nobody let you put a container anywhere, right? And then this model doesn't work out, won't work out. And then I realized that actually if you try it out, sometimes you might get to a yes, right? And then you can move on to the next step. So just solve one problem at a time. So that's where so I solved the container problem. I solved basically how to build a structure problem. I solved how to get a space problem, right? And then the next step is basically just building out the thing, right? And then of course you think about capital, right? How much money? Well, then people say, you need to buy container, to buy gym equipment, all these things, right? And then and then like how are you going to break even all these things, right? So the risk is quite high, the capital outlay. So then I kind of again break it down like, okay, container, can I rent them? Can I buy a second-hand one, right? So there's rental option available, but
I can't ask how much does it cost to rent a container?
I think back then,
I mean,
maybe 2,000 a month or something like that.
Okay.
It's maybe not too bad, right? 2,000 or 3,000, I can't remember. But in the end, I chose to purchase a second-hand one because I have enough belief that I can stretch out the business long enough to generate returns. And
everything right now is based on personal money, not VC back.
Yeah, correct. Okay. Yeah, so back then because I had through the VC back and all this experience, I was quite determined to try out on my own. Take as much control as for myself as long as possible. So that was my mindset back then. But again, I break it down. Okay, if I purchase a container, actually the worst case is if it doesn't work out 6 months or 1 year down the road, at least I have my own personal gym for 6 months.
That's nice.
Right? Yeah. And I can actually resell the container back.
Is this the fear setting workshop like my team?
Yeah. I think I did that. I think I did that for this.
Okay.
Yeah, so I can sell it back, right? So I don't make 100% loss. I can still get back some of the thing. Same thing for
your friends.
Yeah, same thing for gym equipment, right? So and then of course I learned enough that I didn't build the app right from the start. I kind of get software off the shelf, hack together a system that makes it look like it's automated, but it's actually not. To try it out. So that's some of the learnings from the previous startups I had to figure out. So I kept the cost pretty low. And then, so my whole thought is let's just get it out as low cost as possible. And then you see how it goes, see what the customers' feedback, all these things. Yeah.
Then how's the initial traction at one-off?
Actually,
or how long did it take for you to develop confidence that this is it, I'm going out?
Yeah. I would say the first month was pretty bad. But in a way, because it's my first click and mortar, I mean, okay. Because the previous experience were all digital, right? All in the net.
Infinitely scalable tech solutions.
Yeah, there's no physical thing, right? But this is the first time you have a physical thing. So it's pretty magical to me, the sense that from an idea, something pops up, right, in the physical world. So that was pretty magical to me. And because of the physical presence, right, people can't help but notice it. Right, it's bright yellow.
The color is very distinct.
Correct. So then unfortunately, because I started in one-off where all the entrepreneurs are, right, and all of them are naturally curious.
What the hell is this?
Yeah. So then there will be people trying out and all these things. So and I think word of mouth kind of spread. They try it out, and then I talk to the customers and all these things. And interestingly, other developers see the same thing. Landlords are basically, right. So you this is a very interesting concept. Like, what about my area where I don't have amenities or a gym for my customers, for my tenants? So
is this feasible?
Is this feasible? Correct. So both sides, once I kind of reach out to them and they reach out to me and then kind of discuss. So when the point where I think is something that this idea is feasible is that developers starting to reaching out to me, to see whether it's something they can try in their area. Yeah, they said, oh, actually this is the angle that we go about as well. So that's where then we started a second pod. And we kind of see customers, there's increasing customers, in a sense that when I talk to them, I realize that actually a lot of people are like me, like they really want a privacy. Yeah, even though our gym is very small, our equipments were not fantastic back then, right? They just want a private space and they want to work. So there are actually a lot of people like me. And yeah, that's what I said. So there is a market demand for that. I wouldn't say market demand, customers demand for that, right? I don't know whether the market is big enough yet. But having operated, and then I realized that our model operating cost is very low because there's no manpower. The space that we're using are usually unutilized space. So I could negotiate for something pretty cheap rental, right? And that's basically our operating cost, right? And cleaning, right? Cleaning. So then I just, basically, okay, so back to my financial background, do a financial modeling. How many users do I need per day to actually cover the cost, to break even? How long to break even? And I said, actually, I don't need that many customers per pod to actually even just to cover the cost. So I think that, so given that if I could plan all of this in, let's say, because I like industrial areas, right? Given each industrial area have like a few thousands of people, I just need a small percentage of that.
Small market share of that.
Right. And a small footprint, small percentage, and I can already cover the cost. Then so I think, then this model can work, right, in terms of economics wise. So that's where I started to grow the thing. Yeah.
Then TLDR, not TLDR, but how did it escalate so fast? I'm interested in the part where how did you know to transition to a franchise model, and how do you create something that's something that like a blueprint that you can really sell to others? Like, when did that transition happen? Did it happen early on, or was it part of the plans from the beginning?
Not part of the plans. I think earlier on when I started building pod by pods, right, and I realized that the process is pretty similar. Of course, we evolve like in terms of how we build, what kind of materials we use, and all this stuff. But in terms of outrun, and once you build the app, everything, the system, it kind of quite auto run, right, in terms of operating the pods. So I realized that it is quite a replicable model in terms of different pods. The franchise idea did come to me early, but I didn't really want to do that yet because first, I didn't know how to run a franchise. I've never run a franchise business before. And I think I wanted to fully develop the so-called SOPs, right, the operating thing, before, just for myself and my own team to run before I built a franchise. So as we add more pods and stuff, we got into end parts and different things, right? We started getting more and more inquiries to franchise the thing.
Was it something that you were telling, we are out for, or it's like no, people ask about it?
So we get some inquiries, people ask about it, and then I decided to not start a franchise yet, but just to find out whether there's even more demand. So we created a little page, Own a Pod, and we do some Facebook ads and stuff to see how are the inquiries coming in. Are there a lot of them? So we get a lot of inquiries from that channel, in Singapore, overseas and stuff. So I said, okay, this is something that people are really interested in, but we still haven't started the franchise yet. I think of course halfway through, COVID came, circuit breaker, all these things. Of course, then you can't really start a franchise back then. Yeah, but in a way, it gives us time also to develop our processes well, to really understand all the single steps, document all these things down. So then come really the decision whether, and then because as you know, as you scale every pod, there's a bit of capital investment involved, right? And if we want to grow faster, we can't grow organically by investing more capital. We need to either raise funds, we get bank loans, or we can go franchise, right? So, or we can just slowly grow organically, right? Just one pod by one pod, one pod by one pod. So back then, actually, personally, I had two choices. Either I keep as smaller teams slowly grow, and we were really profitable. Then I can just keep it small, take some money and then just relax don't do so much, right? Or
move on to the next thing.
Move on to the next thing, right? Or I could try to do the franchise route. Hopefully it grows and then go overseas, all these things and grow the team. So I think in the end, maybe just the competitive nature is actually it's got something. Let's just try to grow. I talk to the team, let's try to grow this much bigger. I think, and I also think that because a lot of customers like it, and I feel that it's beneficial to if I can reach out to more people because back then our location is not so much, right? So it's still pretty inconvenient for some of the other users. They can't come to our pods and use. So I feel that if I grow, then I can reach out to more people. Then more people can enjoy our services and stuff, right? So then we decided to open for franchise, and so that was really the catalyst, I think. Because once we open for franchise, the inquiries come in, we work with them, and then the franchisees basically, they scout the locations with us, and they can grow more quickly. So that's where we grew pretty much from, I think, 16 pods on our own, 20 pods on our own to around 40, 50
Overspan
pods.
of 6 months, 1 year?
We started open franchise last March. So until now, it's about 1 year to 4 months. Yeah.
Oh, what's the story of the first franchise that we went through? Is there a story behind that?
I don't think particular story of that. Basically, they can first come in. The first one that kind of accepted our offer, or we brief, and then we give our terms and all these things. They accepted, and then they found our location, and we just got started. Of course, back then, we were very honest. Now, this is our first time doing franchise. You also have to trust us that there will be some mistakes made, and we'll try to rectify it for you and stuff. So, fortunately, definitely the first few franchisees that we accepted are people that we either friends of friends referred, that we know that there's some rapport to build with. Yeah, because we understand that there's going to be some mistakes made.
It's your skill with the VCs also, like
in a way, definitely. Yeah,
life skill.
Yeah, I think definitely when you're trying something new, right? I think to be honest,
being honest,
people,
okay.
Yeah, then we know these things, we try to do these things. There will be some things that we need to figure out later on. But we work together with you on that lah. So at least they are assured that we will not leave them halfway and then not do anything to them. Yeah.
What's next? I know that your opening in the United States is your vision now to dominate the world.
I think we want to bring the pods to as many cities and places as possible. So as you know, we just started in Chicago, 3 pods. Okay, so that is something in terms of pods. That's something we really want to grow. But also along the course of our business, right, we talk to our customers, we realize a lot of them still lack the awareness or knowledge of how to train by themselves. So that's where we are looking into next. Basically now we provide a space for them, right? We have tools and gym equipment and all this for them. But how do we help them get the knowledge?
Because I realize there's a lot of TV panels, a lot of infographics, correct, how to do this, workouts, videos.
Yeah. So one of the things that we actually did was we actually started installing smart mirrors in our pods. We actually programmed it ourselves. We created content for people to actually at least follow the workouts to start training. Yeah, so at least that helps somebody who's new to the gym, right? That at least they can watch something and do. And because it's a mirror, they can also look at their form at the same time they're doing it. Yeah. But there's further intention to develop that because the smart mirror actually comes with a motion sensor and camera as well.
Wow. Okay,
so we are at the same time also developing with partners, how do we capture their motion and actually guide them along how they do their exercises while it's unmanned in the pod. Yeah. So that's something that we are working on. We are pretty excited about that. We also know a lot of personal trainers use our pods for their clients. And vice versa, clients bring their personal trainers in. But we realize that personal training can be quite expensive for most people, right? So we actually bring our own master trainer to develop training content for our users, as well as we are now currently developing a model where we can make personal training on a subscription basis rather than a per workout basis. But keeping it very low cost and but still customizable, personalized for our users. So that's something that we are looking to launch pretty soon. We're actually trying out already in beta phases, secretly with some of our customers, and get pretty good feedback. So the idea is that you get a personalized trainer, you get a personalized program. We actually get you on a wearable. Most people have a wearable nowadays.
Sorry, a what?
A wearable.
Oh, wearable. Wow,
yeah, wearable.
Okay.
Correct. So because traditionally most physical personal training, right, the coach only trains you during when you're period, right? So during between trainings, they actually don't see you or what.
You want to hold them accountable, is it? Why are you eating the McDonald's?
Yeah. So in a way, yes, but in a way, I realized that it's not just important to look at during the training phase, but also look at their recovery. What are they doing outside of training? Are they recovering well? Are they eating well? Are they sleeping well? All this will factor into how we customize the training for the next workout. So that's where my team is building, using more
something
data.
Something automated. Wow, okay.
Correct.
So.
And it also helps the personal trainers because they don't need as much time face to face. They can look at the data, craft the program, right, teach the program, and then send it to the client, right, and do that. And in a way, it lowers the cost for them. When it lowers the cost for the trainers, it lowers the cost in general for the customers as well, right? And then we can bring this to more people to get personalized training.
Wow. Okay. Like, how so? Was it something that you discussed with the team, or is your idea that you wanted to do this, or naturally, like what you see, this is just a general direction that you want to go in?
It's definitely something we discussed with the team. Not entirely from myself. With the team, with the customers, customers tell us the problems, right? And then we kind of figure how to fix this thing. So we kind of came out the at first then we always want to tie it to a little bit of tech, right? And then looking at latest trends, more and more people are wearing wearables, and we're thinking, how do we use this data to help them
Get
help the
gains.
customers? Correct. Yeah. So that's where we're at now. Yeah.
Can I ask, I know you're doing a lot of things, right? How has your experience at Massive Infinity helped with your experience at Gym Pod? Because I know you're currently a director of sorts at Massive Infinity, right?
So Massive Infinity basically is remember the Web Development company that I talked about when we were in school? Basically is that evolved over time. So it became a mobile app developer and a lot more consultancy.
Is it run by your school, your
Correct.
ex-schoolmate?
So my ex-schoolmate currently runs it. So I'm personally not involved in the day-to-day anymore. So he runs it. And yeah, basically from there, I think that company is always a special place, like the sense that because that's the first one that we kind of started, and we kind of learn a little bit from there. Things kind of spin off from there. Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right, Damian, I think you've shared a lot. I'll move on. Thanks so much for sharing all this thought process. If I can ask some general questions, right? In 1 year from now, right, what's the best thing you want happen to Gym Pod that will make it the best year for Gym Pod in 1 year's time? What will need to happen in 1 year's time for Gym Pod to have its best year?
I'm hoping that we can open up in at least 3 more countries.
Wow. Which countries are you looking at?
So obviously we open in the States already.
Because I can imagine the States, I mean, the opportunities are just so much. It's like it's a big country. So
yeah. So they're definitely the States, and there is a big piece to chew on. But also looking at some of the more Asian countries, so like Taiwan, Korea, Malaysia, nearby kind of things, where we think, because most of them are the urban cities, dense cities, where the pod concept will actually work there. We think will work there. People want privacy in a certain way, so that's something that we are hoping to grow that. So that's on the pod side, and like I say, I really hope the training aspect of things that we are working on can more people can take up personal training, get fitter and stuff. So that's where, and that's like our next service and next business line, right? And that's, I would think 1 year from now, I'll be happy if we can see that take off, and another, a few thousand people on that.
In terms of Singapore growth, do you want like 200 pods, or is there or it really depends one step at a time for yourself?
I think from the start, I set myself a goal of 100 pods.
I mean, you're on track to reach it, right?
Yeah, I think so. I was thinking 100 pods, or basically a pod in every
vicinity,
estate, right? It should be estate, every estate, so that it's accessible so nobody has an excuse that gym is too far away.
Yes.
Right? I want to make that goal. But of course, we have to look at the economics, right? The more you do and stuff, you kind of have
quality control,
all these things. Yeah. So we work definitely more closely with our franchisees. How do we do that? But definitely we are looking to grow definitely more pods. I think 100 is still a very feasible number. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. All right. Thanks so much for sharing your journey as a real entrepreneur. There's so much things you have done, right? I'll move on to more of a quick fire, short fire, non-business related questions, right? What is the lie you tell yourself the most often, if any?
Everything is going to be okay.
Wow. Okay.
I'm not sure if that's a lie or. In a way, I do believe in it sometimes. Yeah. But also, of course,
it's an extent it will be okay, but it won't be okay. But then it's where your problem-solving abilities comes in to write things down and solve it, and actually realize to make sure that it does not become a lie.
Yeah, correct. If you just think of everything is okay, then yeah, of course, then you won't do anything about it, right?
But it's opposite for you because you will do something to make sure that it's not a lie. Okay. If you could tell your younger self any one thing, what would it be?
Believe in yourself a bit more.
Wow, okay. Should people pursue their passions?
Wow. If the passion, okay. Sorry, I know it's a short answer supposedly, but
No, feel free to elaborate because I'm interested to know your general thought process. There are like some books that say, you shouldn't pursue your passion. You should be good at what you do. If people suck at what they do, should they pursue their passion still?
I think in general, I say yes, pursue your passion, but I will caveat that it doesn't mean that pursue your passion as a career. Yeah, you could pursue your passion while you are working on, you have a normal job and all these things, right? Especially if your passion is not going to be something that I would say realistically doesn't really fit you, right? Doesn't fit for your family. If your passion is going to be that, then you could like still do a normal job and do a passion, on the side hustle and all these things. Yeah, so I say yes, but not necessarily as a career.
Are you doing what you're passionate in?
I would say.
Or what are you truly passionate about? Okay, I know I'm throwing so many questions.
Correct. Honestly, running a business is not all I'm super passionate about. What I'm passionate about in building products, creating things. I think best my childhood, I want to invent stuff, right? So I want to create things that people can use. And that's what I really enjoy about, figure out things how to people. So that's what I'm passionate about. But of course, running a business is more than just that. You think about growing a business, hiring people, managing people, firing people, talking to investors, marketing, all these things. So all these things are certain interest to me, but the main passion about is really building products.
The possibility of you moving on from Gym Pod is always somewhere in the realms. Possibly if you have grown it big enough and you're not excited about it, or if someone buys it over. Is it?
I think in a way because as the company grows, right, you have to grow along because at different phases of the company, they require a different CEO. So that to me currently is still very interesting because it's a kind of challenge. Can I grow into that kind of CEO, right? And so for right now, at least I still see that I want to carry on growing that. But if I feel that in one day or what, that I feel that I'm not up to the task or it's not something that I'm interested in, then yeah, I'll be happy to have another CEO take over or be acquired or depends on how it goes from there.
Since having started Gym Pod, how have you changed as a CEO? Or how have you grown, or how have you changed as a CEO? If any.
I think definitely very subtle changes along the way, and then it kind of compounded.
What are those subtle changes?
I think to a large extent, I am too nice at the start. It's not a bad thing. I kind of build relationship with people, but there are certain things that I have to be a bit more decisive on, to be more ruthless on and stuff. For the sake of the company. So I think that's something that I have worked on and still working on. But I think I got a little bit better and just to be a bit more firm in my own decisions and to trust in them and move on. And I think I also learned a lot about growing people, my staff. How much space should I give them, but also how much control I should look into guiding them. Because you can't give them too much space as well. Yeah, so that's something that I learned. I learned about one-to-ones in the company is very important.
One-to-ones, okay.
Yeah, so I don't used to do that in the previous company. But in the Gym Pod, initially I didn't do that. But later on I read books and stuff, right? So they say
What books?
I think like the hard things about hard things.
Okay.
Something like that.
Yeah.
So that's where I learned one-to-one. So I try it out and it's a bit awkward for me sometimes. But it's I think one of the best things that I did to understand my staff and then grow ideas from there and pick up problems early. Yeah. So yeah.
On the note of books, like what resources do you think has helped you in this journey?
Okay.
Like you talked about the habit of reading. I don't think you like an avid reader. Like, do you pick up reading eventually, or how?
Yeah, I pick up read. So I actually read a lot when I was young, a lot of fictional books, and then I kind of stopped it into my teens and adult life. So I picked up reading again around the time after I got acquired, I think more free time again.
That's good. That's good. Like keeps you headspace, lah.
Yeah, correct. So again, developing myself right back then. So I was like, okay, let's exercise,
gym and
read, you know.
Okay,
yeah, so let's sharpen my tool again. Yeah. So I think a lot of books. So hard things about hard things. I think 0 to 1. I think pretty common. Also books like Man's Search for Meaning, something like that. By Viktor Frankl. Not so much on business, but more of a philosophical approach to things. So which is quite important, I think, for entrepreneurs to be a bit more chill about stuff. You know, look at things from a different perspective. So these are the, I think, offhand. 4-hour work week, definitely.
Tim Ferriss, big fan of Tim Ferriss, obviously.
Right, I listened to the podcast, so I have to read his book. Frankly, initially I thought his book, because of the title, right, I really think it's like, crap lah, how can you work 4 hours kind of thing. Yeah, right. But fortunately, I gave my chance to read it. I realized it's actually not about that. It's totally different perspective.
It's about leverage.
Yeah, it's about leverage. Yeah, so quite a few books that off my mind, 0 to 1, and Search for Meaning. Hard Things, but Hard Things, definitely.
What are you reading now?
Right now, I'm reading the book by Tony Fadell, the Apple guy, ex-Apple guy. Of course, the title of the book. She's the new designer for iPod.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
read that.
Yeah, it's quite a new book, I think. So basically about his experience and how he built products. Yeah,
which is what you're obsessed with.
Yeah, I guess so.
Okay, next question. Last few questions, I promise. If you're a parent, are you a parent?
Yes. I have a daughter.
One child, one daughter?
One daughter, expecting another one.
Oh, congrats. What are the top 3 values would you want your children to get from you?
Okay. What top 3 values for them to have? I'm not sure we'll get from me, but basically I think
what do you mean not sure get from you? Me, don't have it.
To be grateful, I think. In the things in life. Patience. Second value. Third value, I will say courage, probably. Yeah.
Okay. What's the meaning of life?
Wow.
Okay, sorry. I know very deep. It's just like passing questions. I mean, everyone has a different answer to it. Just wanted to get your POV. Given that you have read all these books, what's your perspective of what's the meaning of life? I think the meaning
of life to individual changes as you grow in the different phases. At the last time, to me, my meaning is that I must build something that will be immortalized, right? That is a legacy that people knows about centuries down the road. That to me was the meaning of life.
What changed that?
I think what changed was since I have a daughter, probably. Yeah.
How old is your daughter?
Coming to 2 years old.
Okay.
Yeah. And to me, is really being present with people and really guiding, could be my child, my employee, or my customers, to get better. So I secretly think there's no really particular meaning in our life. Our life is really just very finite and short in the grand scheme of things, right? But what we make most of it lah. And I used to say, meaning of life is to try to be happy. But now I think more of I just try to not to be unhappy.
Okay, try not to be unhappy.
Yeah. So I think it's very hard for me to pinpoint what things make me happy, but I could pinpoint what things make me unhappy.
What makes you unhappy?
Yeah. What makes me unhappy? Things like worrying over stuff that's going to happen that's not out of your control, for example. Things like having to deal with people that you just don't want to deal with, and then sometimes you just carry a fake smile and then talk to them and stuff. Right? So that doesn't make me happy. So certain things like little things. Yeah. Sometimes it could be just as little as small little annoyance, like I don't know, like maybe commute or whatever, right? So you just find a certain way to turn it around, and then you just don't feel so unhappy about that. Yeah, just to turn off the little annoyances. Yeah.
All right, interesting. Okay, I know. Last few questions. What's the best advice have you ever received?
I would say, because this is from my taekwondo coach. Basically, he told me, trust in yourself, believe in yourself. Yeah.
What's the worst advice have you ever received?
Worst advice.
Things you wish you like what?
Wow. I don't think there's really a worst advice I really received, because I think it's really how you use the advice that matters. Yeah.
Because you're a person that gets a lot of advice, but it's just how you apply it,
Correct.
which is the
Because
most
I think most of the advice that come. Okay, I guess. Okay, I don't like getting advices for parenting, I guess.
Wait, you don't like getting advice for parenting? Why? It's unique to
Okay, rather unsolicited advice for parenting.
unsolicited advice.
Yeah.
Do you have an
Yeah.
example?
So for example, people, I mean, older folks or people like you should school your kid, or some people say you should not school your kid, or some people will be like you should make her sleep early, or the kind of things, different things. But I think every parents and every child have a different dynamic. So if it's unsolicited, then yeah, not welcome.
So can I have an unsolicited parenting advice from you? what unsolicited? Oh my god, that's a mouthful. What unsolicited parenting advice do you have? And in your own experience, that is valid to you.
I would say enjoy the time that you have with your child. Really cherish it, because obviously a child has they will throw tantrums. There's good and bad times, right? And I think cherish even the so-called the naughty and bad times, because those times will eventually pass, because they will grow up and stuff, and it's very fast, very quick. So that's my advice, I guess.
Okay, on that note, what relationship advice would you give to your younger self?
Wow. Maybe don't be too afraid of commitments.
So were you afraid of commitments?
I think there were times.
So what changed? I know I'm asking the same question. How did your wife change your mind, or your life change your mind, or did like entrepreneurship change your mind? Don't be afraid of commitments. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's just
3-year bond. Commitments.
okay. Actually, I want to change a little bit. Just that I guess my earlier relationship, I was afraid of the commitments. That's why it didn't work out. Even like there's no particular reason for the relationship. I just for breaking up, I just walk away, because I was afraid of committing further. So I think, but fortunately, I met my wife. I think life's changed and stuff, right? And then you kind of realize that if you don't commit, you can't get any fruits out of it, out of the relationship. Yeah.
A fruits baby.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. Last 2 questions. I need one for LinkedIn. What career advice do you have for your younger self?
Don't be afraid to try new things, because you think that they might fail. There are big chance of failure, because the risk of failure is usually not that big. You could actually mitigate them.
Tim Ferriss.
Yeah. Correct.
Okay. Very last question. Oh my gosh. Oh, okay. This is very general. What life advice do you have in general,
Life advice. I think
or life philosophy?
I think in general, man, really is try not to be unhappy, man. Whatever things makes you unhappy, you don't do it, right? And realize that all emotions, I mean, the most of the unhappy stuff is caused by yourself internally, right? Usually we feel angry at someone or something, but it's actually because of ourselves. We can just let it go, and then you kind of don't feel that, right? Same things for worry or anxiety or these things. Yeah. So I think that's what my advice will be for people in general.
All right, Damian, thanks so much for coming on this podcast. Is there anything you want to share with the world?
No, thanks for having me. I think I've shared my stuff, and just for the world, be kind to everybody.
Come Gym Pod.
Yeah, come have your own private time, enjoy yourself.
Yeah. On a more serious note, definitely go out, try Gym Pod. The facilities. I mean, I've tried it. I like the privacy aspect, Like you have the whole pod for yourself, and you can just have a very efficient workout. If you go to the gym, you need to about 1 hour plus. But you go to Gym Pod, you can just take 30 minutes of focus time and just get your workout done. So yes, definitely try it. I'll leave everything in the video description, and I hope to see you in the next episode. Thanks so much, Damian.
Thanks, JJ.
Thank you.